is the WrestleBread Podcast, bringing you the latest news, recaps, and analysis of AEW and WWE. Get the unique perspective from a wrestling fan of over 25 years. Here's your host, Jaydee.
What's going on, guys? This is Jaydee here, and this is episode 77 of the WrestleBread Podcast. So we have Hell in a Cell coming this Sunday with a horrible go-home show from Raw this week. And we also have Bound for Glory from Impact Wrestling, which had a better go-home show than WWE did with Raw. We have recaps going on, of course, a bunch of news. So first piece of news is that John Cena is married. John Cena got secretly married on October 12th to Shay Shahrazadeh. I think it was in Florida as well. They actually started dating back in early 2019, and now they are married. So a very short period of time that they were dating before they got married. Congrats to Shay and John Cena. Of course, everyone is thinking about John Cena and Nikki Bella that they dated for 6 years. They were engaged and they broke off the engagement and eventually split up. Reasons being is that Nikki Bella wanted a family. That was the biggest thing. She wanted a family. She wanted to have kids, and John Cena did not want to have kids at all. This is John Cena's second marriage. I believe he was married back in 2006, and he was only married for 3 years at that point. So best of luck to the two of them. I hope they have a successful marriage. I felt as though the relationship between John Cena and Nikki Bella was kind of maybe for show. I believe that there was love there and everything, but I think what John Cena wanted and his personality really didn't mesh well with Nikki Bella. Nikki Bella is very public, and she, of course, was on 2 reality shows. And she had a podcast going as well. And there was a point in time where she was wrestling on TV as well. Whereas though John Cena seems to be more of a private person, he really doesn't like his business being put out there. Of course, he kind of turned into a villain on, I think it was Total Divas or Total Bellas, one of those two, when Nikki Bella was living with John Cena and John Cena had his quote unquote rules that he had to follow in his house. And people kind of took it as him being a dick. I kind of figure he wanted things done his own way, and he wants his house cleaned a certain way, and he wants things his way, and he wants someone to kind of not really fall in line, but to kind of respect his boundaries. And Nikki Bella has too strong of a personality to not really, I mean, she did follow his rules to the best of her ability, but we all saw how things kind of went down with them too. Maybe you could think that, I'm sure people think that the proposal was forced, that John Cena was kind of pressured into proposing to her, especially, at WrestleMania after their tag team match and everything. But who knows, and who cares? He's married now. Another piece of news is there has been an update to Karrion Kross injury. Scarlett had posted on her Instagram, it was a video of Karrion Kross pulling a rope, basically a pulley, that had Scarlett and her friend in a basket, and he was pulling on a rope to lift them up. I saw the video, very impressive, he's pretty strong, no doubt that his arm is definitely pretty much at 100%. So I can't wait to see him come back. I can't wait to see what's in store for him. Of course, he should be going back after the title. When he debuted in NXT, he had a very strong showing. He was very dominant. He had a big push, and he did win the NXT title. Of course, unfortunately, he got injured to where he had to give up the title. So best of luck to him. I really hope he gets a speedy recovery because his entrances are sick. In other news, Jake Hager is returning to MMA at Bellator 250. Bellator 250 will be taking place Thursday, October 29th, and his opponent is an undefeated heavyweight, Brandon Carlton. Jake Hager is also 2-0, and this will be his 4th fight. Reason being is because his last match that he had back in September 2019, he kneed his opponent, Anthony Garrett, in the groin multiple times. It resulted in a no contest. The referee thought it was intentional, but of course everybody remember talking about that as well. I don't really watch as much MMA as I used to. Of course, if it's like a big fight that's being announced, I will check it out. And I used to watch Bellator a long time ago, so I don't really keep up with it as much as I used to. So more likely I'll catch the highlights of this fight between him and Brandon Carlton. Another piece of news, AEW is offering season pass tickets for their show on October 21st and 3 additional shows. They tweeted this out on Twitter right after AEW Dynamite last week. It says the season pass tickets are only available through email, so there was no indication of how much the price would be. Of course, AEW has been letting fans into the arena, and they have been asking fans to stay in their sections, to wear a mask, of course. And so far, I guess it's kind of been working. I haven't seen any news or anything about any type of outbreak or anything among the fans. And of course, we have seen fans who have no mask on, of course. Hopefully, this will probably eventually open up to having more fans in. I think Florida isn't doing as well with COVID. I believe their numbers are still pretty high. But if AEW can definitely show that they can control the potential outbreak amongst fans, it probably could have a couple more in there as well. And this is kind of off wrestling, but something that I saw on YouTube. And I'm sure there are a lot of old heads that are listening to this podcast. I saw that Animaniacs is coming back. And when I say it's coming back, I'm not talking about a reboot like they did with DuckTales, that bullshit that they did. This is an actual bringing back with the original voices. And they sound exactly the same. Except for Brain. Brain sounds slightly different, but it's still the same actor. And it's the same voice actors. It looks like the same animations. Probably more likely, basically the same type of jokes. I can only imagine the political jokes that they're going to be coming out with. I mean, I remember the jokes that they were making with Bill Clinton. So I can only imagine the jokes that they would have for Donald Trump and for Joe Biden. I'm very excited about this. I love Animaniacs. I used to watch them every day after school when I get home. And I love the fact that this is not a remake, not exactly a reboot. It's just like it's coming back. It's just coming back. That's it. It's the original voice actors and everything's pretty much the same. It's just coming back. So I'm very excited about this. So on to some other news. Sony Sports India had tweeted out a video tribute to The Undertaker, and it was a beautiful video. A video was showing two brothers basically watching The Undertaker through the years, and as he progressed through his career, you see the kids growing up as well. So it started off with The Undertaker in his early years, the older brother watching, and the younger brother was a bit scared. The older brother kind of gets the younger brother to start to kind of, not be afraid. And then it goes to The Undertaker winning a title. You see the older brother's a little older with his own cardboard made title. Then you see The Undertaker during his biker taker days, and you see the older brother is now a teenager, an older teenager, of course, and he rides in with his motorcycle, and he had on a bandana and everything, just like The Undertaker. And then it gets to the part where The Undertaker lost at WrestleMania 30, and you see the two brothers, they're adults, and the older brother, I think it was his kid, it was a little girl that was sitting with him, and you see them reacting to him losing. They were sad and everything. And it just kind of, the narrator comes on and talks about how it's been 30 years and how The Undertaker kind of went to something that, a young fan would fear, and then he turns into a hero, and then he turns to somewhat of an icon, and basically thanking him for the past 30 years. It's a beautiful video. It's a wonderful tribute. The Undertaker retweeted the tweet and thanked the fans for their support over the past 30 years. Of course, this is in conjunction with the 30-year anniversary of The Undertaker coming up. He did debut 30 years ago at Survivor Series, and WWE decided to do a special documentary series on WWE Network called 30 Days of the Dead Man. And it's 5 weeks. It'll be a docuseries episode that will come out each Sunday, very similar to I think it was called The Last Ride documentary of The Undertaker. And it'll be different segments. One segment will be the story of Paul Bearer, The Undertaker coming back to Broken Skull sessions. It looked like it'll be The Undertaker and other wrestlers talking about his favorite rivalries, things like that. And as I said on Twitter, I will be doing a recap on YouTube of each of the documented series episodes. I will be doing a YouTube video recapping each episode, hopefully coming out on Mondays. The first episode will be coming out after Hell in a Cell, and WWE so far has been pretty good with the timing of when their pay-per-view events end. So I am hoping that the Hell in a Cell will end at a pretty good time, so I'll be able to watch the first episode of this, be able to record a reaction, and be able to edit and everything all within a good period of time. I'm going to aim for a Monday video release on YouTube, but if I don't make it, please don't be mad at me. And be sure, if you're not following the podcast on YouTube, be sure to follow the podcast. Even though it is audio podcast right now, I do plan to do more videos on the YouTube channel to kind of put more content and give people a reason to actually tune into YouTube as well. So on to very sad news. There was a death in the wrestling world. There is a luchador. He was only 26 years old who passed away during a match. He took a few chops to the chest and a kick to the stomach before he collapsed to the mat. Unfortunately, he passed away after he was transported to a local hospital. And his name is, I really apologize if I got it wrong. I did listen to the pronunciation of it, but I don't think I have it correct. Principe Arrero, I think his name is. He was only 26 years old. The match took place in Mexico, and this was back on Saturday, October 17th. And there was, of course, a lot of tributes that came out. I believe Mick Foley tweeted out about him and his death, and it's just always sad to lose someone so young. And it's believed that he suffered a stroke, or it was definitely something, he was having a heart issue because of the way he had collapsed in the ring. Very sad to hear something about this, especially for someone so young who had such a promising career, to have something so unexpectedly and so sudden happen. It's just really sad. So thoughts and prayers definitely go to his family and to all of his colleagues and everyone in the wrestling world. I can't imagine the person who he was going against, how they feel, because, he did take 3 hits. It took like 3 or 4 hits right before he collapsed. So I really pray for that person as well, because I really hope that person doesn't feel any type of guilt that, it was something that was of his doing. Going into WWE, we had the season premieres of Smackdown and of Raw. I don't know why they decided to do this when Raw is supposed to be a go-home show for Hell in a Cell. It felt like they completely forgot that it was a go-home show until the last minute, and it definitely felt like it because the show ended, it felt like prematurely. So going into what happened at SmackDown, a couple of highlights. WWE is really trying to push this whole thing with Fox and trying to get the insiders to appear and try to make WWE come off as an actual sport. They use the sports analysts of NFL Fox, who, of course, they have their show on Sunday. They also had Fox Sports Insider Jake Glazer breaking down picks of who's going to win. The biggest thing that they were breaking down was Roman Reigns versus Braun Strowman. And they were trying to talk about the match as if it was a football game. They were saying, oh, this is my pick because he's very athletic. He's a former athlete, such and such. And I was like, somebody tell these sports analysts that skill does not matter when it comes to WWE. It's basically who likes you in that gorilla position, who sits in that gorilla position. That's all that matters. Because we can have, if there were AEW stars in WWE, you could definitely see Marco Stunt taking down Big Show, okay? It doesn't matter about skill, about how tall you are, about, if you're a former athlete or anything like that. I mean, look at Chad Gable, for crying out loud. We also had Jeff Hardy versus Lars Sullivan, the Freak, because if you didn't know he was called the Freak, Michael Cole told you how much the Freak is the Freak, and then even Corey Graves mentioned the Freak a lot of freaking times, and I'm like, I get it. We all get it. He's called the Freak. You're really trying to put over the fact that he doesn't move like a big guy should. Of course, he's going to get his push. It was very apparent that he's getting a push before he even went away for a while. I guess they're going to make him very dominant. I don't know who he's going to be going against. I don't know if he's going to eventually feud with Braun Strowman down the line. I don't know. We also had the contract signing between Bayley and Sasha Banks. Very intriguing storyline, of course. Dominated both Raw and SmackDown at a certain point. But now we have the former tag team champions going against each other. And I liked the way this contract signing went. It didn't go with the normal flip the table, let's fight type of situation. Sasha Banks cut a promo of how much she wants to, tear up Bayley inside a Hell in a Cell. And Bayley was like, look at the way you're looking at me. This is how you've been looking at me this whole time. Pretty much, acting like she doesn't know what's going on, that she is the victim. Sasha Banks is the one who is in the wrong. And Bayley decided to not even sign the contract, which I think we don't really see that type of situation happen at contract signings that often in WWE, of someone deciding, I'm not going to sign this contract. We also had a farewell match and promo from the New Day. If you didn't tear up or felt some type of way with them three talking about, thanking the fans, thanking each other, and going down memory lane of what those three did together, then I don't know what to tell you. Those three have been together for the past 6 years. I still don't understand why they are separated. And I don't understand why they split a lot of these tag teams just for them to be tag team again or tagged up with someone else. Make it make sense, people. But the New Day, of course, tears. And although, yes, both shows still take place in the Thunderdome. Yes, they're not moving around. Big E will be able to see Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods from time to time. Big E can come to Backstage Raw and hang out with them. However, we don't know how long this roster is going to last. I'm going to assume until the next draft, which could come after WrestleMania 37. Which means eventually, of course, as we have heard in the news, WWE is definitely looking into traveling again. And once that happens, that will be truly the end of the New Day. Because Big E will be traveling with the Raw roster. Big E will be traveling with the SmackDown roster. And Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston will be traveling with the Raw roster. And both guys will probably be able to see each other either online or in person, maybe once or twice a week, who knows. So it just doesn't make any sense. I feel as though that Big E can definitely be taken seriously while he's still in the New Day. We can remember the feud between the New Day and the Usos. Even though both teams can definitely get silly, they had a very serious feud and serious matches against each other. I guess WWE doesn't really trust itself to put Big E with the New Day and not make him do silly stuff, so they decided to take him completely out of the New Day, put him on his own so that he could be more serious. I'm just hoping that he will actually get an actual push and that he will be dominant, not too dominant like the Freak, but dominant enough to show his strength, show that he can really go at it in the ring, show that he can cut a promo, and just let him win a title. And I'm hoping eventually the three of them will reunite, but I don't know when that is going to happen either. So going into Raw, the season premiere, I'll have to say, very bad go-home show. They had a new intro for the season premiere of Raw. I don't know how to feel about the song. The song by itself, I like. I just don't know if it gels with WWE. I would have to see it a couple more times and hear the song a couple more times in order for me to really know if I like it or not. If it really goes well with Raw. It seems a lot. That type of song is a lot better for SmackDown, but I feel like with Raw always had a lot of the rock songs. I feel like SmackDown could definitely have that type of hip-hop song in their intro. So we start out with Alexa Bliss in the ring. She says, "He's here, let him in." The Fiend shows up. He does his entrance. He gets into the ring, and him and Alexa hold hands. And Retribution, immediately, the word Retribution pops up on the screens in the Thunderdome. And Retribution shows up after not appearing for a whole week. The Fiend and Alexa Bliss do not move at all, and Retribution surrounds the ring. Of course, as soon as they get into the ring, the lights go out. Alexa Bliss and the Fiend are gone. The Hurt Business comes out, and it is the Hurt Business versus Retribution. Retribution puts up a fight during the match, I would have to say, but eventually they lose. I believe it was T-Bar who tapped to Bobby Lashley's Hurt Lock. I was about to say Full Nelson, but it's actually the Hurt Lock. Afterwards, the Fiend shows up. He showed up on the apron as if he was standing with Retribution. I believe it was WWE on Fox that tweeted out. It was somebody. If it wasn't WWE on Fox, it was definitely someone who tweeted out a photo of the Fiend standing on the apron with Retribution, and it said, "There's someone among us who..." It was basically an Among Us type of joke. It was like, there's definitely an imposter among us or something like that. It was pretty funny. But the Fiend shows up, and then the Fiend takes out Retribution single-handedly. People think that that's him turning face. I don't think it's him turning face. I think he is still who he is. I believe that he took out Retribution because Retribution went to attack him. As he was in the ring, Alexa Bliss shows up on the screen. She says, "Let him in." And that was that as far as with the Fiend. We also get AJ Styles, who shows up with a bodyguard. It's the same guy that was standing at the door of Raw Underground. Of course, Raw Underground, it looks like it is canceled officially. And so the big guy needs a new job. And I know his first name is Jordan. I saw his last name. I didn't get a chance to get the pronunciation of it, so I'm not going to say it here. I'm not going to really butcher it because, oh my goodness, my type of accent, I will definitely butcher that name if I didn't hear it first. But his first name is Jordan. He's about like 7 feet tall, 300 pounds, definitely a mammoth of a person. He made AJ Styles look like a 10-year-old. The referee was intimidated by him. They even had Matt Riddle kind of act intimidated by him as well. Of course, I don't know. I'm getting like Shawn Michaels, Diesel type of vibes with them too. maybe I'm pushing it. Maybe I'm pushing a friendship type of aspect a little too far. Well, of course, we all know that this more likely may lead to AJ Styles versus Jordan, and I can only imagine AJ Styles selling the moves of Jordan. So Lana gets her title shot, of course, and people actually thought she had an actual fighting chance of winning the title. Of course, she gets pretty much not really slaughtered. She had a little bit of offense, but she taps out to the Asuka lock. And then randomly, Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler comes down and starts attacking both women. And Nia Jax then proceeds to take Lana to the announcer's table and does a Samoa drop on the announcer's table. This has been the 5th week that Lana has gone through a table. I don't know if there is a record of how many weeks in a row one has been put through a table. I'm pretty sure Spike Dudley may have that type of record, but I don't know if there is a record or not, and if it is, I'm pretty sure they want Lana to break that record. People were trying to, make it that she has an actual shot. They were also trying to make it seem like, this is her getting, her redemption because of everything that she has gone through. And it's like, she got put through a table. Like, okay, she got a title shot, but it's actually winning the title that really matters. I mean, you can get as many title shots as you want. It's winning the title that matters. We also had a concert done by Elias as well. I was okay with the music. It really didn't bother me. And I remember, back in the days of The Rock and his concert as well, when he was sitting in the middle of the ring with a chair and he will sing full-on songs on a guitar. So I wasn't really too bothered by Elias. I really didn't expect him to sing 2 songs. But then we get Jeff Hardy, who pretended to be someone with, he was in a hood pretending to play electric guitar. And he attacks Elias and then mentions how he's the one who didn't hit him with the car. And I didn't understand why, truthfully, Jeff Hardy goes to attack Elias if he is trying to prove his innocence. I would believe if someone, accuses me of running them over with a car, that I'm going to try to talk to the person or to cut a promo of my innocence before I actually attack them during their own concert. And then, of course, we get to the end of Raw where we had Randy Orton cutting a promo inside Hell in a Cell. It was as if they realized, oh snap, we have Hell in a Cell coming up. And Randy Orton cut a promo in the middle of the Hell in a Cell. He locks himself inside. Drew McIntyre comes out. Randy Orton starts talking shit to him, like, oh, break the lock and, get in here, this, that, and the third. And Drew McIntyre had bolt cutters stashed away, and he goes to break the lock. Randy Orton goes to get a chair. Drew McIntyre gets into the Hell in a Cell structure, closes the door behind him, and that's all, folks. That was the end of Raw, and I really couldn't understand why they would decide to end the show that way. It didn't make any sense. I don't know how that was supposed to entice people to want to see the match. I mean, it was as if they realized they should have done something about Hell in a Cell and they really ran out of time. It was really bad. It doesn't really sell the show at all. I don't even know all the matches that's coming to Hell in a Cell. I just know it's Randy Orton, Drew McIntyre, of course, Bayley and Sasha Banks, Roman Reigns and Jey Uso. I believe Elias and Jeff Hardy just came about, and that's it. That I don't recall any other matches that's going on. We also had the Firefly Funhouse. I forgot to mention this. We had the Firefly Funhouse that had Alexa Bliss, and Alexa Bliss was wearing this Freddy Krueger type of sweater. Of course, she looked a lot more polished, and she said, there's a lot more fun we're going to have or something along those lines. And they both waved goodbye. So, of course, this is one of the better stories that's happening on Raw. Of course, it carried from SmackDown. And I'm very interested to know what is Alexa Bliss' actual role with The Fiend and the Firefly Funhouse and Bray Wyatt. Of course, she came across as a Harley Quinn type of character, but it seems like she has some type of power maybe with The Fiend, that she kind of feels him coming. It seems like she summons him. Of course, what we saw last week where the lights come out and she was doing his moves and everything. So I'm very interested to see what happens with that. Now, Monday was very interesting because while I was watching this not so great of Raw, supposedly go home show season premiere, the Cowboys was playing Monday Night Football against the Arizona Cardinals. And I used to be able to really know my teams. I knew who was a good team, who was a bad team. Of course, with the pandemic and all the craziness going on, it's kind of hard to really know who is doing well. Of course, the 49ers lost like 4 key players. And so it's kind of like an up in the air type of season. I mean, we have Tom Brady playing for the Buccaneers and we have Cam Newton playing for the Patriots. So my team was trash, of course. People actually thought that there was some type of fighting chance with Andy Dalton. Our overpaid running back had butterfingers. I like Ezekiel Elliott, but when he got paid all that money, I knew he was paid too much. We have a first round draft pick who is pretty good, but apparently is non-existent to the playbook. I don't know where he's at. I mean, I see him on the sideline, or if he's doing like offensive and pass interference. But other than that, he's not in the book. And then there's Andy Dalton, and people thought that we were going to go to the seriously, there were people who thought we were going to go to the Super Bowl with Andy Dalton. Yeah, even my cat agrees. Yeah, Andy Dalton. Can you believe that? People thought that we were going to go to the Super Bowl with Andy Dalton, which I knew we weren't because I don't know where people have been. I know Andy Dalton from when he was playing with, I believe it was Cincinnati. I believe it was the Bengals. And I'm like, that's the same quarterback. I can see if he was a backup this whole time and we didn't get to really see how he plays, but it's still the same guy, It's still the same guy who played for Cincinnati all those years, and Cincinnati didn't win a Super Bowl or really got that deep into the playoffs. So, and I don't know how my team got worse with a new coaching staff. And if you're not a Cowboys fan, you probably don't want to hear me kind of rant on about it. But if you're not a Cowboys fan, you probably are happy that I'm ranting about this because not a lot of people like the Cowboys. But the NFC East is all trash. To my Eagles fans out there, of course, I'm from Philly. A lot of Eagles fans are upset. They are blaming Doug Peterson. They are blaming Wentz. They're blaming a lot of people. But it's the whole division. I mean, the Giants is I think the Giants is still winless. I think it was Washington. No, Washington lost, I believe. So the Giants is 1-5. And so we are 2-4 and we're still at the top of the division, which is fucking embarrassing. So, back to wrestling. So we have AEW Dynamite and we have NXT Live coming up this week. To recap what happened last week, it was the anniversary show of AEW Dynamite. All titles was on the line, and of course, all titles were defended and all titles were retained, which I thought was a bit weird. I thought there would be at least one title exchange, but no. Cody Rhodes and Orange Cassidy match resulted in a draw after 20 minutes. Now, a little piece of fact that I found out, and I'm probably very late to this party, I didn't know that Orange Cassidy is Fire Ant from Chikara. And I remember I used to watch a few episodes of Chikara, And I used to love some of the people who had the lucha mask on, who were the luchadors, I should say. And I remember Fire Ant, and I cannot believe that is the same guy. It's a bit mind-blowing. And so I did read an article that an interview that Bleacher Report did with Tony Khan. And Tony Khan had mentioned that when he found out that Orange Cassidy was Fire Ant, he wasn't 100% sold on Orange Cassidy. But when he found out Orange Cassidy was Fire Ant, he realized that he could work with Orange Cassidy. And instead of having his character kind of remain the same as this sloth, lazy type of thing, that he'll let Orange Cassidy get stronger and stronger in the ring week after week and, release more of his moveset. Which, come to really think about it, is kind of smart, because people always know Orange Cassidy for the guy with the hands in the pants. And so if they want to make the transition of him to become more serious, and especially for the type of skills that he was showing as Fire Ant, to kind of have Orange Cassidy evolve. And like I had said before, Orange Cassidy is entertaining, but I can't really take him seriously with the character that he is now. So if they're slowly changing him into something else, letting his skills in the ring kind of evolve, and we see him get a lot more athletic, to where as though I guess what they're trying to aim for is that he somewhat still is the same character, but his moveset is completely different. I don't know how that will play out, but I'm willing to see what happens. We also had a couple of announcements. We have the AEW Tag Team Tournament that was announced, and then the World Title Eliminator Tournament that is announced, which I will go over in a little bit. We had MJF and Chris Jericho, of course, a little bit back and forth in the ring. MJF decided that he would like to join the Inner Circle. Chris Jericho said he would have to think about it, and they both decided to talk about things over a steak dinner. And the way that they went about it, it was as if they were cutting a promo to face each other in the ring. It was pretty entertaining. I think the Inner Circle might be a little too big to have 6 people. But if they were doing this as a slow burn for the eventual Chris Jericho versus MJF feud, I'm fine with it, especially if you're going to get some type of entertainment out of this. Mainly being is that there's people who know MJF, but I guess MJF really didn't have as much time to shine as he did when AEW first came about. MJF used to get a lot of time to cut a promo, especially to the crowds. And since the pandemic, besides him, with his promos against Jon Moxley, it felt like he really didn't get too much of a chance to shine. And I'm guessing that they're going to use Chris Jericho to kind of help him out. Because even MJF is pretty good on the mic, but he's not as exciting in the ring. So I don't know if they're trying to groom him to, of course, become one of the top heels alongside with Chris Jericho. But I don't know if he should definitely join the Inner Circle. There's some people who really don't like MJF, and they think that, not MJF, they don't like the situation that MJF is in, that he's not really being taken seriously because he's going to be involved in all these comedy bits with Chris Jericho. I somewhat agree. I'm hoping that they will know how to have balance with this, that they would know to, even though there are comedy bits that MJF will be able to be taken seriously down the road, maybe they are using this to kind of build him up a bit. I'm hoping that's what it is. AEW Dynamite was a pretty good show, and so was NXT Live, of course. NXT Live, of course, is setting up, I believe, some of the feuds that will be happening at Halloween Havoc, which is coming next week. We had a couple of good matches. Of course, Johnny Gargano versus Austin Theory. Both men put on a pretty good match, especially Austin Theory, who really didn't have that much time to shine when he was on the main roster. Of course, he was in the He was in the tag team. He was in the tag team with Andrade and Angel Garza. But him going against Johnny Gargano really gave him a time to shine. And so is Shotzi Blackheart. She went against Candice LeRae for the number 1 contendership. Candice LeRae wins, which I'm not really surprised about because Shotzi Blackheart is the host for NXT Halloween Havoc. But Shotzi Blackheart, I mean, you gotta love that girl. She definitely has a lot of potential as well. Toni Storm went against Aaliyah, which I'm not quite sure why they did that with her. Toni Storm wasn't really as dominant in this match that she normally is. I don't know what they were trying to aim with her going against Aaliyah, but I'm hoping that Toni Storm will get some type of feud going pretty soon. We ended NXT Live with the North American Championship matchup between Damian Priest and Dexter Lumis. This was a good match. Of course, Damian Priest retains the title. He is going to be going up against Johnny Gargano for Halloween Havoc, so I'm not surprised at all that Damian Priest retained his title. But there are a lot of things that are promising to happen with Halloween Havoc. Of course, there was the announcement of the Spin the Wheel, Make a Deal, which was something that WCW had used for Halloween Havoc many years ago. So going into the preview of what's happening with AEW Dynamite and NXT Live, we're going to have the number 1 contender Fatal 4-Way Tag Team match. This is to be the number 1 contendership for the tag team titles to go against FTR. The competitors were picked out of a drawing last week. It is Private Party versus Butcher and the Blade, Dark Order, and the Young Bucks. And of course, it looks like we are setting up the Young Bucks versus FTR. The Young Bucks is turning pretty much heel. They keep super kicking people and then throwing money because they know they're being paid a fine by Tony Khan. I'm fine with this setup. I mean, everybody has been waiting for the Young Bucks versus FTR since FTR came to AEW. I'm just kind of tired of the Young Bucks constantly in the spotlight. This may sound a bit crazy because I know they're the top tag team in the division, but I wish that they would give other people a chance to shine. I mean, looking at the ratings, the Best Friends are above them, but of course the Best Friends just had a title shot and lost. But there are other tag teams that are higher in the rankings than the people who were in there. As far as the top 5, Private Party isn't there. We do have Santana Ortiz who's in there, and then the Natural Nightmares who rank as well. I'm not sure if these rankings even matter anymore because we do have the World Title Eliminator Tournament. And the people who are in this matchup aren't even in the top 5 of the rankings. However, the match that is definitely going to be the match of the night is Penta El Zero versus Rey Fénix, the Lucha Brothers going against each other. That will definitely be the match of the night. I expect both competitors to do something crazy, especially Rey Fénix because he's not a human being. We also have Kenny Omega versus Joey Janela, Colt Cabana versus Hangman Page, and Wardlow versus Jungle Boy. Half the people that is in this tournament shouldn't even be in the tournament if this is supposed to be for the number 1 contendership for the AEW Championship. I don't know what, truthfully, Joey Janela and Colt Cabana are doing in this. They both have been somewhat losing or wins on AEW Dark for a while. So I don't get why they suddenly are in a tournament for a title shot. Looking at the rankings for the men, we have Lance Archer, who of course got his title shot and lost. We have Brian Cage, MJF, Brody Lee, and Scorpio Sky. Of course, this is nothing but a setup of Kenny Omega versus Hangman Page. But I would love for Penta El Zero or Rey Fenix to kind of get a shot and get a little deeper in the tournament. I wouldn't mind Rey Fenix versus Kenny Omega, or even Penta El Zero versus Kenny Omega as well. And I'm guessing we're going to have Hangman Page versus Jungle Boy, or Hangman Page versus Wardlow. But I feel like this is just a setup for Kenny Omega versus Hangman Page. We're also going to have Britt Baker in action, and of course we're going to see that lovely steak dinner between MJF and Chris Jericho. On NXT's side, we're going to have the Undisputed Era versus Breezango for the NXT Tag Team Championship. I would like to see the Undisputed Era kind of win gold again, but I feel as though the storyline here is what happened with Adam Cole, and if the Undisputed Era are still rocking as a single unit. So that's it for the WrestleBread podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Let me give out some shout outs. Shout out to Julianne and Rob Bates from the Wrestling Court podcast on AssertiveMinds.com. Keita and Jay from the Keita and Jay Show. Chris from We Talk Next podcast, which is featured on the Keita and Jay Show. Nando and Larry from Half K podcast. Devin and Hafiz from Clark Street Wrestling. And my boys over at Powerbomb Jitsu. So coming up, there is going to be another episode this week. I'm going to be giving my predictions for Hell in a Cell and a preview for Bound for Glory. I will not be able to recap Smackdown on this episode just so I can get it out before Bound for Glory happens. So I will be recapping Smackdown on the review episode that will be coming next week as well. Like I had said earlier, be on the lookout for the video on YouTube of my recap of the 30 Days of the Dead Man. I believe I have enough Undertaker shirts to actually wear a different shirt for each video. Be on the lookout for those shirts. And I ironically brought 2 new shirts that I saw of The Undertaker that I really like. Make sure you're following the podcast on Instagram, Facebook. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at Jaydee Talks. That's JAYDE Talks. And follow the podcast at WrestleBread as well. Be sure to follow the podcast on YouTube so that you can catch those YouTube videos that I will be putting out about the 30 Days of Dead Man. Also, let me know your thoughts. Leave a review wherever you're listening to this podcast. And until next time, guys, peace.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the show, be sure to subscribe and leave a review. Check us out at WrestleBread.com and subscribe to WrestleBread on YouTube for more breaking news and JD's opinions.